Pelotero Pickle, episode 39. We got a blockbuster episode with Mike Bryant, father of Kris Bryant, joining us. We hit some quick topics with the Mets fighting, Albert Pujols getting DFA'd, and then we just jump into some deep hitting topics. You're going to love this one. Check it out. Pelotero Pickle, episode 39. We've got a special guest with us today. We've got Chris Colabello. Let's bring Mike Bryant in. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Can't be better.
Thanks for joining us. Mike and I met, I think, in 2015, 2016 at Pitchapalooza. I've kept in touch since. And then, he's got a whole bunch of hitting knowledge. We're going to do some normal topics. We'll talk a little bit about some adjustments that have been made with Chris. And then obviously Chris Colabello. Chris, how are you doing today?
I need to clarify one thing. First of all, your introduction, you were nervous because, you forgot to mention he's the father of Kris Bryant. Now, Mike, I have a question.
I was downplaying that a little bit.
No. I have a serious question because, for a long time, growing up in my hometown, I was Lou Colabello's son. And then at some point, that transition happened where he became Chris Colabello's dad, if you know what I mean. Is he still Mike Bryant's son, or are you Kris Bryant's dad? Which one is it?
No, I never had a first name for the last 7 years. So I'm KB's dad. When I tried to change it, I became KD, Chris's dad. Okay. So, but I'm starting to regain my identity. I had a kind of a midlife crisis there for a while.
See, I was just letting him be his own guy. There's nothing wrong with that. That wasn't nerves. So let's get right into the topics. We got two quick leadoff topics today. Topic number one is team fights. We had a situation in New York with the Mets where Francisco Lindor and Jeff McNeil got in a little scuffle in the dugout, behind the dugout. And then afterwards, when it came to the press conference, Lindor said they couldn't figure out if it was a rat or a raccoon. There's an animal back there they had to deal with. So obviously that was just their way of trying to keep it in-house, that, they didn't want to draw media attention to the fact that they fought. I think this is going to be the rallying cry for the Mets as the season goes on. I'm sure they're making shirts. Mike, I'll throw it to you. What are your thoughts on adversity and bringing a team together?
Obviously adversity is a tremendous opportunity for you to find out how mentally tough you are, because everybody knows that plays this game that this thing will bring you to your knees. It'll get you pissed off. It'll make you do things that you regret. And, it's just so you can understand, how emotions can fly in the game. Nobody, try going 0 for 33 or 6 for 49 and see what that does to your head. And so to turn that around, obviously Chris leans on me for support, and he's no stranger to it. And even when he was healthy, he's had issues, with a terrible run going, maybe I think his worst was like a 4 for 36 one time. And he always the adversity thing, you always try to learn from it. Say, hey, you're not the only one. You're not alone, man. Look at, he's like, well, who else is going bad? And I'll go do research, and I'll say, this guy's 6 for 49. Jeter was 1 for 41 one time, and so it kind of calms him down a little bit. So I think it's necessary, personally. I think you have to go through it in order to, it's kind of a rite of passage, to be able to play in the big leagues. You're going to get your ass handed to you, by the pitchers. And, it's just the way it is, man. You're constantly under attack. The minute you step in the box, you're under attack.
I say all the time, it's a battle of attrition, right? Baseball is a battle of attrition. It's about survival. And especially, the Mets had big expectations this year. Obviously, Lindor with the big contract. They brought in some other guys that they thought were going to make an impact. New owner. And you start out and you're scuffling, and it could be just like one weird little moment that sets you off. And the play in question, I think, that really ended up being the icing on the cake was like a ball. And it was just a weird ball, kind of up the middle. McNeil pulled up. Lindor, I guess, probably called it. And then the guy ended up being safe. So I'm sure McNeil had some words of choice. And Francisco is like Chris, just the most handsome devils ever. I could never get in an argument with Chris because, his the first time I met him, I was like, oh my God, and he's just such a sweet kid. Lindor's kind of the same, just got that big smile. So I don't know. McNeil must have had some some edge. You know, he's a tough guy, but like you said, it's stuff that needs to happen. And Bobby, to your point, I think it'll probably be something that you know, either they rally around it or it divides them. So I think it'd be more fun for baseball if it's rally around it. So
yeah, it's funny how situations will come up where there's bottled up tension, you get that boil over moment, and it can really bring a team together. I think they're going to be talking about rats and raccoons all year in Queens for the Mets. I think it's one of those moments that they're all just going to rally around it.
My question is, how long did it take them to come up with that? Did Frankie do it on his own? Did somebody else give him the idea? That's the question I have. Not like, I want to know how long it took them to fashion that in their minds, because, you know.
I love it. It's appropriate too, because if you've ever been to New York, some of those rats could be raccoons. They're so big.
Yeah, they're like dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, you have any stories, any teams in the past where there's been some conflict, guys?
Yeah, my best friend and I mean, a really good friend of mine. He played for the Rangers and the Red Sox, minor leagues, and lefty. High school buddy, moved from California, hit it off right away. I was a sophomore, he was a freshman. We were friends forever, you know. And we were in summer league, college summer league, and we drove down to Waterbury, you know, the Eastern League fields down there. Waterbury Connect used to be the Giants. We had our Stan Musial summer league playoffs down there, and Schmitty was on edge. He just got shelled and thought he, you know, ruined our chances. And, you know, he wanted to go to McDonald's or something. And, you know, it was my car, you know, I had my car. And he was like, I said, no, man, we need to go to the field. You know, we got to get ready for this game. We don't have time to eat, you know. And he's like, I'm starved, man. He says, you know, I'm not pitching this game. I said, dude, we got to go to the park. And he got pissed off and he freaking sucker punched me. I mean, upside the head. I mean, he hit me pretty hard. And, you know, headache for like a month after that. But I looked at him and, you know, I grabbed his throat and I just kind of realized what I was doing. And we just kind of walked away from each other. I flipped him the keys. I said, here, you go eat. I'll walk to the field. And I was like a mile away, you know, at the hotel. And so he left. He came back. We're sitting on the bench. It's 5-5. It's at the bottom of the eighth inning. And I hit a solo jack to tie it up. And everybody knew that you know, he whacked me. And he's, hey, maybe Schmitty ought to, you know, whack you in the head more often, you know. And he just laughed and he comes over, he gives me a big hug and he just said, hey, I'm so sorry, man. I said, hey, we're friends, man. We get it. We're brothers. You know, we moved on, and, you know, that was about the most confrontational thing I had. Happened in basketball too in high school. One of my best friends called off and belted me because I was, you know, he was just elbowing me way too much, and, you know, in the scrimmage. And I'm like, you know, so I just turned around and belted him, and he turned around and belted me. And I got sent down to the locker room. he's up there still.
The instigator never gets in trouble, you know.
Yeah, and the coach was a dick. I should have punched the coach. At any rate, so that's my story. That's the only one, you know.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I always feel like the weight room does such a good job creating team chemistry when guys are pushing each other, and you can look across the room and see somebody going through some pain, going through some, you know, really pushing themselves. I think the weight room does a really good job of that. If the culture's right. If guys are just going through the motions, and then it goes the opposite way, you don't respect that guy.
Pick a guy to run with, pick a guy to work out with. You know, that's key.
Very good. All right, next topic, bat flips. All the rage on Twitter right now. People are freaking out about bat flips. This has been brewing for a while. There was a college player at an NAIA school. I'm not even going to say the name. Everybody knows who it is. Overhand through the bat. They came back from an 8-run deficit. It's like the final game of the kid's career. Emotions are out. But I think this is the draw the line in the sand moment for bat flips, because everybody's got an opinion on it. We got major leaguers weighing in. For me, I'm starting a new thing. I think I'm calling it natural actions. If it's a natural action, so if you're in the act of putting the bat down, in the act of going towards first base, everything's fine. So you can do like pull the sword out. You can let it go like they do in Korea, where they fling the bat sideways because it's part of the unwinding of the swing. Anything where you're launching the bat vertical or throwing it overhand, or anytime you just stand there and watch it, to me, you're going to bring out some emotion in the other team. Let's go Kris first. We've had many talks about bat flips. Are you on board with my natural actions movement?
Sure. I think you should just be allowed to get hit in the ribs every time you do something that crosses the line. That's it. And I think this is the fundamental truth of it all, is that as of like 25 years ago, or even like probably 15 years ago, if somebody did that, what that kid did, like he would have got chased around the bases and probably tackled, and everybody would have been like, I get it, you know, or he would have got dotted, or the next guy would have got dotted. Now everybody's like off that idea. So the reason why it's getting out of control is because there's no accountability, and everybody's just trying to one up each other, right? Like every bat flip is turning into a one up. It's like, let me see how obnoxious I can be because I can get on Instagram, whether I'm at, you know, Little League Field B or NAIA school or, you know, whatever. Everybody thinks that they can garner attention that way. And it's tired because, like, you should let the way you play talk. If the moment calls for something emotional, like, you can get a little bit emotional. But, like, I think it's so much cooler to do something understated. Like Lance Berkman's thing was my favorite thing ever. Like, that dude would just, like, put the bat down with both hands.
Just bend over and put it on it. Yeah.
That was so much cooler. I feel like we're gonna see that out of Kris at one point, because he's pretty understated, like home run guy. Like you don't feel the need to flip the bat. Let's just play talk, right?
Right, exactly. Hey, I like I said before, I'm from the Cal Ripken, Carl Yastrzemski school, Hank Aaron. You know, I'm an old school guy with that. You know, you hit your home run, you handshake it with the third base guy. You go to the plate, you handshake it. No hugs, no kisses, no, spoon-fed things, stirred up stuff. I'm not into that. It just brings too much attention to you. Now, I've been hit before by a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and it doesn't feel good. And it scared the crap out of me because it was up high near my neck. It's me and it was an accidental. He didn't do it on purpose. But no way. I just forget the back flips. I don't know. Just the pitcher's got the ball, man.
Well, I think that's the thing that people forget, right? Like, so everybody that's saying, "Oh, we really enjoy bat flips and we really enjoy the emotion of it," like that's cool, right? But like, I also don't think people understand that in the heat of the moment, right? When you're competing at the highest level, and even if it's the big leagues or college, when you're like, you got the light switch flipped on, you have no idea how the player on the other side is going to react. So because you draw that attention to yourself, you're ultimately putting yourself in a position where, if you catch that guy in the wrong moment, like those are fighting words. You know what I mean? Everybody says, "Oh, you shouldn't take it personal," or whatever. Okay, well, you go out there and see what happens when you're working at 150% adrenaline. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep. Absolutely. And, and it goes both ways too. The Trevor Bauer act is getting a little old, the Hulk moves and the hoo-yahs. And he struck Kris out the other day at the bases juice, looking, and he just screamed. And then I'm like, dude, come on, man. Act like you've done it before, for crying out loud. It's like, it's no big deal, Be Adam Wainwright. The guy's a class act, even though he's a Cardinal. He'll strike you out and he's not going to say anything, and so, yeah, no more bat flips. And, at some point, that Jose Batista one, man, when he was chewing his cud like a cow there.
Yeah. Well,
that wasn't right. And what was it? Odor. He took knocked his. Yeah.
Well, the Jose one was like
Kris was playing first base in that game.
I was sitting in the dugout, right? Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and I literally made it a point, like as the ball was going out, to turn and look at him. And I understood it, right? Like that was as energetic. Like I played 9 innings that day. Every pitch we were like locked in emotionally. I know Kris played some big games. I'm sure you have too, Mike. Like Bobby, biggest game you ever played in conference tournament, conference championship, probably like. But you feel there's just a different level of intensity, right? And then if it's close, late close, right? Look, the Batista one, it was what it was. But that was. I'm going to call him today and blame him for this whole bat flip generation.
Yeah. It was something else, man.
That game, the build up to that moment was crazy because it was, the errors that were happening, the throw from the catcher that hit the bat. That game was wild. And
I'm still upset because I want to play the Cubs in the World Series. So we both did a bad job of losing the Mets into the Royals. So I hadn't played at Wrigley yet either, which was upsetting. Yeah. Daniel Murphy had like 900 homers against
he was impossible to get out.
It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
I never either. He was hitting pitches off his shoelaces into the second deck.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What's going on here? Everywhere you looked, he was hitting a dinger.
I would have felt bad for Rizzo because, Kris too, but we would have beat him in the World Series. I can say that out loud with full conviction now because it's never going to happen. We're never going to play, but I know we would have beat him. So,
that was an unbelievable run for me, man. I went to every game and flew on the team plane on the way home, and I was like, whoa. this was emotionally draining.
Bobby would have enjoyed it way better if it was Cubs Blue Jays, I think.
Yeah, he's a Toronto guy. He's a Canadian, isn't he?
No.
You're
No.
not,
So
you're the Blue Jays.
When the Jose Bautista Batfleck game, I was packing for my wedding. I got married that weekend, and Kris was supposed to be in my wedding, so he missed my wedding because Jose hit that homer. So
it was the least I've ever wanted to go to one of my friends' weddings. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I didn't want you there either. So
yeah,
it's mutual.
I get that. No, I get it.
So all right, next, kind of a sad topic for me. Albert Pujols DFA'd. Kind of weird, kind of crazy to see a name like that. His performance hasn't been great. So yeah, what I think from just a logistical standpoint, the Walsh kid's pretty good. He's probably going to play better than Albert. I want to hear from you guys about the role of that kind of veteran leadership in the clubhouse and what that means to a team as opposed to just the numbers when he's batting. Stat for me, Pujols was like the guy that changed my life when it comes to swing mechanics. So just sad to see that happen. I was pretty shocked. But what do you guys got on just clubhouse presence and, like Mike, you said, the respect for that type of player, a cornerstone of the game?
Oh yeah, come on with that. And I don't know where it came from. Did it come from Madden? Did it come from So
the story behind it was he wasn't in the starting lineup and went to talk to the manager about playing time, and he wants to be an everyday player. And it was basically decided that he was not going to be an everyday player. Ohtani is going to get all the DH at bats because he's a stud. Yep. So it was just determined that he wasn't going to be an everyday player, and it was better to go different ways.
Bear in mind that lineup was written by the front office, by the way. That was not Madden's call to not play on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see Joe was would fight that, knowing Joe that, he has a ton of respect for the players in the game. And I just can't imagine him, doing that. I think, that had to come from the front office. But the other thing too, that you have to take into consideration is, you got to know when to say when too. I mean, Albert, he had 1 year left on his contract and he's got a personal services contract. Maybe his skills were diminishing to a point where this was inevitable. And so maybe he should, say, hey man, I should have retired last year. Some guys do that and they don't, you don't want to go out, that way, hitting 190 with 4 home runs. And, you want to go out if you can with, hitting 280 with, 23 homers and 90 ribbies. You want to go out like that, but maybe he was looking at the numbers and I can do this, your mind says yes, your body says no. And so, that's always something that subject has to be breached at some point. And that's an individual thing. You got to look at yourself in the mirror, say, I can't play this game at this level with these young kids, and then go out, or know that this inevitably could happen and that your role may be reduced to being, that leader, getting in there, pinch hitting, winning a big game, getting a spot start, coming up 4 for 5, and then, to give a guy a rest, stuff like that. Maybe you have to accept that. And, I think that's part of the game too. And it takes a lot of integrity and a lot of class to be able to do that. But, hey, Pujols earned the right to do pretty much what he wants to do. And if there's disagreement there with the front office and the players or the manager, then you have to respect that too. So I bet he ends up back with the Cardinals. I think
that's a tough one because they got Goldschmidt there. So it's a tough one.
It depends on how he wants to go out, right? Like I think everything Mike said's right on point. Like I couldn't have said anything better myself. I think for him, right, realistically, like he should have looked at the season and said, okay, here's what we have, here's what could happen. And I think in the same regard, I think the organization should have said, hey, Albert, here's kind of the situation. Let's really think about what we want to do here. And realistically, I mean, could have phantom DL'd him, could have, a lot of different things could have happened. I'm sure Albert wouldn't have accepted that as a kind of a way to go about it. But I just hate that let's put it this way. I hate that this is going to be like the end of Albert Pujols' career in one way or another, whether he signs a 1-day contract or a 10-day contract or whatever he signs. It stinks. Like, it just stinks. So I think there should have been more clarity on both ends. And I mean, to Mike's point, like, you know, you don't like, you got to look at yourself in the mirror at some point. Like, I think Albert would be the first one to tell you his last 3 years haven't been very good, comparatively, you know, to who he normally was and what Albert Pujols stood for. So I don't know. It's just a tough situation. And from whatever way you slice it, I just hate that this is the way it ended up.
Yeah, it's sad. I don't think it's good for the game. You know, the guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, he's incredibly dominant and has, you know, changed the game in so many ways. And you know, I met him at the home run derby, you know, when Bobby was there, and he was just the most humble, nice guy, you know, I've ever, you know, one of the most humble, nice guys I've ever talked to. And he's just sitting there with his family, and I'm looking at, this is one of the greatest hitters of all time, man, 2 feet away from me. And so I feel bad that it's happened to him. Man, he was such a dominant force. And him and Manny Ramirez, you know, similar, you know, cut out of the same cloth. Yeah. So it's sad to see this. I hope he doesn't go to like an American League team that's, you know, like the Orioles that are trying to rebuild and DH there, and, you know, just a play, you know. He needs to go help a team win. That's what he needs to do. And whatever he has to do to help a team win, that's what he's got to do. And
Agreed.
It's just sad. I wish he was hitting 300 with 30 and 100 again. Prime.
That would be awesome.
Prime Pujols.
Yeah.
This is my bat. You mentioned the home run derby.
There it is.
For me, he signed a bat for me. Look at that.
Look at that. Wow.
Amazing.
Look at that.
Did you get your Kris Bryant bat signed, Bobby?
No, I didn't get a Kris Bryant.
What an idiot. You're an idiot.
I should have.
Yeah. I'll get you one somehow.
I should have.
I got a connection.
We know a guy that knows a guy.
Yeah.
We'll get into the home run derby later.
Don't be afraid to ask it. I'll forget. I'm getting old, man.
I hate asking for stuff like that.
Yeah. I'll do it for him. Like, it always has to be like, I'll ask for him. I'll be like, hey, this guy needs this thing for you.
Yeah, I'll get you both one if you want one. Maddox didn't want his bat after he pranked him. He was kidding, I guess. Remember when he pranked him at that day, Red Bull prank? Sound man's got a good curve on that. Still want my bat? No. That's Greg, though. I played golf with him a few times. He's got the driest humor. Oh, my God. He's hilarious.
I've heard some stories of things that he's done. He's ruthless.
Totally. Yeah, he's ruthless. He doesn't smile a whole lot. But
it's fun.
I'll have to be a prankster that doesn't smile or laugh, because then people get really angry.
He more snivels and snickers than he does smile. You know, I was kidding around with him once. I said, hey, Greg, you need to grow a personality. he kind of, he goes, oh well. You know.
That's funny. All right, let's start getting into some hitting topics. We've got 3 back to back here. First one, just league-wide hitting is down in 2021, which is interesting because Kris has had somewhat of a resurgence or gotten back to form. 4 hitters so far, depending on how you count no hitters. I think is it 4, maybe 5 with the 7 inning one, whatever. Let's just go thoughts on just hitting right now. I got some stats: 234 league-wide batting average, 703 OPS. I actually looked at batting average by age. Kids under the age of 25 are hitting 232, 26 to 30, 232, 31 to 35-year-olds hitting 238. Hitters age 36 and over are hitting 255. How about that? Old guys.
Whoa.
Producing. Isn't that funny?
Weird.
And then I pulled up some other stats looking at like batted balls. Ground ball batting average is down from 245 to 225 from 2007 to now. So it's harder to get hits on the ground. Line drive, this one scared me. Line drive batting average in 2007 was 734. This year so far it's 639. So line drives, I don't know how much that's a shift. Yeah, the shift, they're just in better positions. So, I mean, the pitching is a lot better.
Is it?
Okay, go ahead. Go
Is
ahead.
it? I'm asking. Is it?
I think so.
I think it is. So I was talking to Scott Lacey, who does the pitching here. I want to pull the numbers on this. I don't know where to pull the numbers. I asked him what percentage of pitchers are now throwing the correct fastball. So there used to be tons. There used to be tons of guys that should have been throwing 2-seamers that were throwing 4-seamers.
I can agree with that.
4-seamers that should have been throwing sinkers.
I'll agree with that. I think pitchers have a much higher awareness of what they should be doing and how to execute against certain profile hitters, right?
Yep.
You know, yes, our bullpen's predominantly like you're just running out a never-ending string of dudes that are 95 plus, right? So you go to the bullpen and you look up and it's like 95 plus coming out of the bullpen. So and then once they need to replace one, they just go
the Cubs.
So like the point is, I think by and large, I would say pitchers are getting better at doing what they should be doing. Now, to the point of the fact that like 3 of these 5 no-hitters or 4 of these 5 no-hitters have been thrown by lefties, 3, and I'll count Bumgarner's too, by like sub 93 mile an hour average fastball lefties. Like Bumgarner and Wade Miley are both like hovering around 90. Like the unwillingness to hit against a shift, like again, and this speaks volumes to the adjustments that Kris has made. I've been paying attention. I obviously saw the Verducci article, which I'm so excited about because like you have to make adjustments as a hitter to what the pitchers are doing. Kris Bryant, who's one of the best hitters in the game of baseball, and we're lucky to have his dad here be talking with us, is making adjustments based on what the pitchers are doing. So I think hitters are getting worse and pitchers are probably getting a little better, or they're understanding how to pitch better. We have to do a better job making adjustments, hitters. We have to take our knocks to the right side, period. I'm done.
I got a different take, okay? I think there's a combination, and it's lethal, okay, for hitters. I think Bobby knows where I'm going to go with this. The umpires have never been worse in the game, period. Now, you know, I watch the game. I watch it very different than most people watch it, okay, because I'm hinging on that's the whole thing that I am focused on. Every single pitch, where it is, up, in, down, and away, what it is. These guys missed 35,000 calls in one season. Pitches that were out of the strike zone called strikes.
This is going to get controversial. Are we going automated strike zone right now?
I want it so bad.
Oh, boy.
I want
Kris hates the idea of it.
I don't hate it. Let's clarify.
No, this is good.
Hate it. Keep going.
An old school guy. You're an old school guy. Okay. And I get it, you know. But you know, I'm telling you, there's never been a perfect game pitched in the history of the game because the umpires are imperfect. Period. You can't call it a perfect game because the umpires are imperfect. You need to be perfect. Okay.
Did you see the stat the other day? Did you see the stat the other day? One guy got every call but one right, according to the box. He was the closest ever to having a perfect game behind the dish. That's
awesome. Okay, but that's the average. The best umpire misses 13% of all calls. That's 26 of, you know, if you throw 200 pitches in a game, and it's not equal. It's not equal.
The problem is umpires don't have to answer to anyone. They have zero accountability, right?
Zero.
As soon as you get past that threshold of being like one of the up and down guys and you get tenured, like Joe West hasn't had to think about his strike zone since 1992, probably. Right?
Angel Hernandez.
Exactly. And like, so these guys, like the ability to just like black out and not care how you call a game, like that's pretty much like Angel Hernandez to me just like literally blacks out during games because I've seen Angel be good for 6 innings and then like in the 7th he just space cadets and like forgets what he's doing. Now the issue lies with the accountability with the umpires. Now to me the problem with the automated strike zone, and Bobby and I've talked about this a lot, is the fact that like at what point did that box become the strike zone, right? Like I know in the rule book it's always been this like arbitrary thing where I sit there and I go, okay, well, like that box could move a little bit based on a given guy. Like now, if he's giving him a ball off the outside corner, like you can't give him that black inside, right? So like I always like the idea of, okay, maybe the strike zone's over here today, but it's going to be relatively the same size. And guys having the ability to earn pitches the same way I think hitters should, right? Like when hitters establish that they don't swing at balls, like I don't think that the borderline pitch should go against them in a lot of ways. So it's a really sensitive topic, and I'm not being like more passive now. I think it's hard because the problem I have is when pitchers miss spots really bad, I get really angry when a pitcher throws a backup breaking ball when he's trying to get it out to the outside corner and the umpire feels compelled to call that backup slider on the up and inside corner because like the guy reached back. Is that really a strike?
I love the semantics, okay, but I look at it like this, okay? If you're calling a ball 2 inches out of the strike zone, a strike, then why can't a batted ball 2 inches foul be fair?
That's
Okay.
true. Oh,
Okay. So look, I mean, there's got to be some absolutes in the game. And I think the game is absolute. It's either a strike or it's not according to whose strike zone it is. There's one strike zone, not the umpire's strike zone. It's baseball's strike zone. It's defined by just below it used to be defined back when Ted Williams was playing as one ball above the waist to one ball below the knee. Now it's one ball below the letters to one ball below the knee. Ted Williams said, if you expand the strike zone by 2 inches all around, that's 35%. That you've made that strike zone bigger, a full third bigger. And he says that if you give major league pitchers that much of an advantage, they'll murder you. Okay. Period.
That was back in the day before.
That was before they threw 98. And so, Kris, you've seen this up close. Okay. You're going to tell me Joe West can see a Jacob deGrom 91-mile-an-hour slider right at the last minute when it kind of disappears. Okay. In a big league, he can't see it. Okay, they can't see it.
I will give Joe West credit for messing up a call for me one time, though. Like, pitch right down the middle, he went ball. I was like, "Hey, Joe, that a babe, you getting it right now." But
yeah, and who pitched it? John Lackey, and he went nuclear, right? He probably had a stroke out there.
So, Mike, you and I need to talk way more. I think we would have conversations that would never end. And like you, honestly, you've made points just now that I'd never heard anybody else say, that like the ball being 2 inches foul. I never really thought about it that way. Now, what I will say is obviously there's lines that have been painted in the ground for years. The issue with the strike zone to me is like, I just don't, because I'm a hitter, right? So when I talk about like the earning stuff, I don't want it to get to the point where dudes can throw pitches and catchers can go like this and have it be a strike. Like I hate that. I hate when a catcher's set up out here and he goes like this and reaches back to the other side and he gets that call. I hate it. Like I think Kris would probably say the same thing. I would imagine like, oh, he's set up away. I'm looking away. I know he's trying to throw that out there and he throws it back up and he gets it. I'm like, now hitting becomes more challenging, I think.
Well, so you're saying that that the art of pitch framing, to deceive the umpire. I was like, when's deception a good thing?
I agree.
Only when you deceive the umpire. I would just rather have it absolute. And call it an umpire assist. Okay, so that they don't get their egos screwed.
So I don't know if you've ever heard my take on this. I think you leave it the way it is, right? Umpires can call their own thing. But instead of going full automated, you give each hitter in the lineup 2 challenges per game, right? Or maybe it's 1 and they get an opportunity to challenge again. So like what you do is you say, you don't like the call, you turn around and say, I want to challenge. The umpire gets, says challenge, beep or no beep in his ear. Cool. It was in the box. Cool. It was out of the box. If you mess up, you lose your challenge. Because that way, at a minimum, I don't know, it could bring some more excitement. It would have to be a fast process because you wouldn't want to mess up the rhythm.
Yeah, you could do it in real time. My feelings are if you can read the date on a dime from 110,000 feet up, okay, in space from a satellite, okay, the date on a dime on the ground from 110,000 feet, that's 6,000 feet into space, okay, you can come up. The electronic strike zone is going to be a piece of cake. Hey, that satellite's moving 17,000 miles an hour. Okay. And it can read the face of a dime and the date. Okay. Even if it's a dirty one, there's no way that anybody's going to tell me that they can't incorporate an electronic strike zone. Okay. The only reason they're doing it is because their egos are going to get bruised. And you got the MLB umpires union. It seems to be stronger than anybody. It's stronger than the players union. And they work for the commissioner's offices who works for the owners. And you want the ball put in play? Hitters have to hit strikes. This is why everything's up. Everything's up. Except the good numbers.
I think they should go back to the old 1 ball above the belt, by the way, because the top of the strike zone is now hitters get so exposed up there.
Well, that's what happened with Kris for almost 2 years now. We had to come up with a plan to flatten out his swing to have the right amount of vertical angle in the bat without chopping down and hitting ground balls. He's hitting too many ground balls this year compared to his past. So imagine if he was elevating the ball a little bit better. That instead of hitting 310, he'd be hitting 350. But we learned how to handle some of those high fastballs, and it wasn't really a hard change at all. You look at Pujols and how he kept his hands high through the zone. We, on how we controlled the strike zone from the top down instead of entering the strike zone, the height of the strike zone, at belt high, and then the hands are below the ball, and there's no way you catch up at that point because it's just too hard. So it's
let's get into that a little bit. I want to know. I'm curious about the dynamic of the hitter recognizing the adjustment needs to be made, because a player at his caliber, he's rookie of the year, MVP, like he's good, right? He's had success.
Good is an understatement. Let's clarify.
Well, I mean, he's played at the highest level of the game. He was, MVP of the league. Like, you're the best player in the league.
He's what I like to refer to as a dude. Let's clarify that. Okay,
yes.
Let's just make that clear. I don't say that about many people, just FYI. I'm not saying it because you're on the call.
Well, I appreciate that.
So to go from,
and you kind of earned it too,
making a change from something that's worked for so long is risky. Like how did that happen? How did it get to the point that you guys determined, like, all right, now it's time to make a change? Because you get like a kid that is a good high school player and he goes to college and he fails and he's reluctant to make changes. Like, where's the threshold to make the choice? Like, yeah, now it's time to make an adjustment.
Well, obviously the numbers dictate that. And so the way we did it, I mean, Jack Nicklaus used to use a lot of visual techniques. You would envision his shots shaping down the fairway. He had to hit a left to right when he had to right. Well, we envisioned the ball path coming in. Where is it? Looked at it up in the strike zone, and then tried to, we put it on a tee and then tried to match the bat path with that ball path. You looked at the Ted Williams thing where pitches at the top of the strike zone come down at approximately 4 degrees. Okay. What's that? That's a number. Well, what we try to do is shape the swing, to have the bat come up 4 degrees to the ball, not down, not level, but precisely what does that swing look and feel like? And then get after it 200 times. Hit that pitch in the strike zone, up and in 200 times. See what it feels like. What he was really developing was what that first move, what his trigger was to that. Okay. So was it a downward move? It was a slightly downward move. Instead of dropping, your elbow into that arm slot that everybody works from, that 90-90 position, was to, before he got to that, what was the move before he got to that slot? And then trying to figure it out and how to apply it, feel it. So, and we had the hit track so we could see it happening. And especially on the tee, you could really see it. And then we put it on the outside part of the plate at the same height, and then just over the middle of the plate, and just keep doing that at that height. And he would naturally react to anything lower in the strike zone, and his instincts would take over at that point. So if it was a down low pitch and he wanted to hit it, the vertical angle would be increased just through instinct. Then we put it on the machine and tried to replicate, something with movement, up high in the zone. And you understand what that trigger was. So that was really a small adjustment. When you think about it, we're talking inches, anywhere between 1/8 of an inch to 6 inches of hand height coming through the strike zone. I mean, that's a small amount, but, pitchers can exploit that pretty easily, by making the ball move a certain way. It's the same way as trying to lay off outside sliders that hang on the corner and break out of the zone. And what type of swing do you have to hit that ball? Well, that seems to be a harder pitch to hit, for me anyways, is that pitch that just nips the front of the plate at the knees on the outside corner. And so those were the things. We were trying to connect the dots with what he was feeling, in his hands to what he was seeing in the pitch. And it was just repetition from there. It really wasn't, I don't want to say it's as big a deal, that it was a big deal. It's really not as big a deal as it appears to be, but good hitters know how to make adjustments, as Kris was talking about earlier, and they're not afraid to try different things. I worked with James Loney here in the off season. He had probably 25 or 30 hours with him. He was trying to create a home run stroke, because he was, so I measured him and showed him what his launch angle was and what his bat path was in slow motion. I said, if you're going to get the ball in the air, you have to change the bat path, and then he started connecting the dots. He never was taught that way, so we started, now I know how to feel. I know what Ted Williams was talking about, how to get that top hand under the bottom hand coming through and to keep the hands high so we could create some lift. And he was doing pretty good, but he never, I guess he never hooked up.
Well,
You know,
it's funny you mentioned him. I was supposed to play in Sugarland with him a couple years ago. We ended up missing each other. I have like a million questions to ask you. First thing, Kris has always hit a ton of homers. Like he hit a ton of homers in college, right? Like high school, like he hit a bunch of homers, I'm assuming too. Was there ever a time, and I love everything you're saying, by the way, it's incredible. Was there ever a time where he was did he ever think down? Did you guys ever talk about swing down, foot down early? Any like the traditional old school stuff? Never, right?
Yeah,
so,
no.
I just assumed that. I guess so. He always understood how to get. So for me, when Bobby started introducing this stuff to me, is when it all kind of clicked. Because I was the opposite till I was like 26, and then Bobby was just a pain in the ass enough to like get me to pay attention to like what it meant to get the barrel behind the ball. So I went from a guy that handled up and in plus velo to like all of a sudden now like I understood down and away, and like it opened up a whole new world. My numbers went like this because now I was hitting for better average because I was going the other way, and I could leave to right center at that point. So, you know, like, was there ever a time for Kris where like when did he start becoming aware of the fact that like spin rate fastballs at the top of the zone were a challenge? Like, how was it like a couple years ago? Was it early on? When did that happen, I guess?
Well, I think it evolved over the last 2 years. 19, he had a pretty good year, but they started attacking him up in the zone. And, you know, he was vulnerable up there. And I don't think he really had an approach for that pitch. He didn't, you know, his thought process wasn't coherent to him. So he would revert back to, you know, some basic stuff, you know, just trying to stay relaxed, trying to hit it through the middle, keeping it really simple, you know. But what he needed to do was find something more specific. And I think, you know, it's not like guess hitting or anything or anticipation or anything like that. I think he really knew that he had to make a mechanical adjustment. And we identified that about a year and a half ago. And last year is a throwaway year for him. He was freaking hurt, man. Yeah. And 19, he was hurt too, but not so much where it affected his play. And 18, he got his shoulder. I mean, from, you know, like beginning of June. I mean, he shouldn't have played until September. But he tried to play in June. He tried to play in July. He kept trying to come back. I'm not sure if he re-aggravated it, but he couldn't swing the way he wanted to swing. So he never was able to develop, you know, and implement any changes. He was just trying to play through pain.
You're just trying to survive. Yeah, you're just
trying to survive. So in 19, that's when the realization came that we had to make some adjustments. And you know, we did it in the off season. I mean, I wasn't pushing him, or, you know, really hard. I just introduced him to these things, and he's, you know, it's not that he was reluctant. He was absorbing it slowly. It's like you're chewing your food, you know, enjoy it, you know, take some time with it, you know. So he would digest all this information, and then he just started to figure out himself. He understood the high hand path. He understood the one move that he had to make to get there so that he would be in the slot early, not getting the foot down, actually starting to swing at the same time his foot was coming forward, you know. And that was Big Poppy in his later years, trying to gain ground on the pitch, you know. So he was trying to gain 6 inches, you know, maybe 9 and 3 baseballs. That's what he was trying to gain out in front. And, you know, that's what's allowed Justin Turner to be good. Justin Turner is able to gain ground. He's in his 30s. You're talking about those older guys hitting for higher average. That's an experienced major league hitter right there. You've got to play this game a long time to get good at it. And the thing that really sucks is the better that you get at this game, the harder the game gets. It's not right. It's not fair. You know, it's the better you get, the harder it gets. Think about that for a minute. Yeah. So you're always pushing somebody to be better than you. You're always pushing the pitchers to be better than you. It's a constant battle. You're under, like I said, you're under assault in that battle. The pitchers are assaulting you every moment that you're in that batter's box, and they are relentless. And it's the mental toughness thing too, to be able to handle all the adversity and the failure.
Now I know Bobby likes you so much. He always says good things about you. Listen, you and I need to start
be real quiet. I just get to sit around and listen.
You and I need to start talking more. You know, my favorite thing you said. First of all, my favorite thing you said.
That whole thing was just
unbelievable. Awesome. Like A+. My favorite thing you said in that was, so like we were talking early in that in what you just said. You said he would go back to like basic approach because he didn't have an approach for that ball. So like I talk about that all the time with guys. It's like you have to build a database of information, right? Like as a hitter, you're building a database. Like this is how up and in works with guys that have this profile. This is how down away with this profile. And if you have one of those things that like you don't have a database for, you go, like, and try to go back to like simple basic stuff, like trust your hands, shoot the other way, stay on top, stay relaxed, whatever. But you have like you don't have anything that you trust yet. So I tell people like the college kids all the time and like young minor leaguers, I'm like, you have to use your cage work. And I think this is what you just kind of said about what Kris did this winter, is you're using your cage work to build something that will work in the game. You're not using your cage work to just go feel good about yourself.
Bingo.
Like, you're not just going in there to taste yourself. Like, what are we doing? Like, I watch so many hitters come in, T right down the middle, flips right down the middle, BP right down the middle, peace out. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah,
like,
these guys will move the T on me. They'll move the T on me, and I'll be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, that one's hard to hit. Oh, really? Okay. I'll file that for when I play against you. Now, you know what Ted Williams used to say? The most important thing in hitting is thinking. Okay? Proper thinking. And all my life, I always said, don't think, see it, hit it. I hear Bill Madlock, 4-time batting champ, just see it, hit it. I say, Bill, it doesn't work that way. I love Bill too. And we never got in any fights. I used to argue with him. I say, Bill, I says, you did not hit the way you teach. And he looked at me, what are you talking about? Yeah. I said, I took a step back. I says, Bill, listen to me. I says, you're a 4-time batting champ. Okay. To me, you belong in the Hall of Fame. Do you think that if I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, that I would challenge a 4-time NL batting champion with 356? I said, do you think I would say something like that? I'm saying it out of respect that you don't, it's okay though. It's okay. Those that can't do, teach, and those that can't teach Jim. So I stole that from School of Rock, by the way. But
that's funny. I'm gonna use that with my dad. I'm gonna tell my dad those that can't teach Jim, because I mean, he's a health and phys ed teacher. So no wonder why I had so much trouble. The one thing my dad did do is he held me to a really high standard, boy, because as a pitcher, he was a really good pitcher. So, his first year when he pitched in Italy, went like 12-1 and he had like he struck out like 14 guys per 9 innings. So he's like, yeah, baseball is easy. And when I go 0 for 6, he'd be like, what are you doing? It's like, how'd you not get 2 hits? So I always had this bug in my mind about hitting 300. But to your point, it's awesome. I think it's incredible. I always used to say this to people, my brain is my best tool by 100%. You take my brain away, I'm screwed. And when I started really being able to process all that stuff, and there are a lot of guys that inherently are able to do stuff without their mind, to your point about
talent.
Yeah. But I'm hard pressed to believe that the best hitters in the world don't have something going on up here, whether it's intelligence, baseball IQ, whatever you want to call it, awareness. I think it's more than anything, it's awareness.
Oh, by far. That's the word.
Yeah, you have to. Awareness allows you to create adjustability, right? Like being aware, like being acutely aware of yourself. So
yeah, I always tell Kris, you need to get into the batter's box in a heightened state of awareness. Okay, almost like you're on the edge of a knife, your tunnel vision. Where if somebody whispered, you would jump out of your skin. Okay, that's how aware you got to be. And Kris is. He's funny. Our relationship, it's kind of funny because I try not to go overboard with my passion with him. I try to talk slower with him, but there's times I just, I get out of my element and it kind of annoys him a little bit and he stops listening to me. And, I remember one time when he gave me resistance when he was younger, and I said, oh, okay. I looked at him, I said, okay, Kris. And I said, do you want me to teach you how to strike out? Because I could be really good at that. I'm sure I could teach you how to strike out. It'd be very, very easy. I said, they never wrote books on how to fail. They only wrote books on how to succeed. And he goes, no, I don't want you to do that. And I said, good, because you know what I really want you to do? And he said, what? I said, I want you to hit a home run every single time you're at the plate. Okay. Because if you did that, there wouldn't be enough money on the planet to pay you for what you're capable of doing. That's like a pitcher striking everybody out that he faces. And he kind of, well, that's impossible. I said, okay, but we can think like that. And that's what I told him. I says, we can think like that. Not that you're trying to swing out your butt and hit the ball 500 feet every time, but we can think like that. To hit the ball hard.
Relatable, That's why you make stuff relatable. I think that's why you're able to cross that threshold of father-son. And I'm sure there's like a little bit of like, shut up, dad. Like, you're still dad. You know what I mean?
There always is.
I say this to people all the time. Like, you have to make hitting relatable. The story you just told is relatable. Like, yeah, I want you to hit a homer every time. Like, if my dad had prefaced a sentence by like, why'd you roll over to short 4 times? Like,
If he had just said, like, Kris, I want you to hit a homer every time you go up to bat, why'd you roll over 4 times? Like, I'd be like, oh, you want me to hit a homer every time? I thought he was, like, trying to get mad at me for a long time. Just,
I remember one time he got called out on a pitch. It had to be a foot outside. And he came back. He's 9 years old. And he goes, and I go, could you follow that one off? You get a piece of it? And he looked, he's pissed. He goes, Dad, it was a ball. And I went, okay, you got this. He got up next time, first pitch he threw him, he just smashed it over this was Little League. He was 9 years old playing in the majors. Just tomahawked one over the fence. I said, well, there's a little anger in that one, That's when I knew he was like, there was something going on there that,
sure.
There was the competitiveness was huge at that point. But
Bob, are you still there? You can go home.
Yeah. No, I'm just listening right now. I have a question a little more granular, I guess. How much, it's more about hitting in game, like at the big league level, how much has the adjustments he made? He's got like routines that I'm sure he goes through. Does he vary his routine based on the starting pitcher that night? Like, do you guys talk about,
awesome.
All right, you're facing this guy tonight. What are you thinking about? What are you trying to feel?
Well, that's awesome because the word routine, we changed his on deck routine a little bit to act more like Pedroia and Braun and Jeter, and keeping his hands up around his neck, swinging the bat around his neck area, just so he feels that. But all the in-game prep, scouting reports, all that, he's good at that. Yeah, he will change his thinking accordingly. If Morton's on the mound, a curveball pitcher, or yesterday Anderson, a changeup guy, he's going to change, what he's in order to adjust the pitcher. And it was funny because I told him, I said, listen, you go to Anderson, he's going to throw your changeups away. He's going to try to get you to swing out of the zone. Think through the middle a little bit more. That's all you got to do. Just think through the middle. What does he do? He freaking blasts one off the fence, left center field, instead of pulling it, hooking it down the line. So and then he hit a single the other day through the middle. So I got him back through the middle. And I think he's starting to find his, I think he's going to go off again pretty soon and, have a nice little run. And then, and I says, and in between those, those 2 for 11s, 4 for 14s where you hit 280, right? And you grind out a hit.
Find a way to grind out a knock.
Yeah. Grind out a knock. Just battle it. Go the other way. Poke one the other way. Take a pitch off the plate with 2 strikes and just poke it over, to the right side. Find a way to get on. We does that yesterday. It's a shot down the right field line, and that guy Stokes, he makes a nice slide and grab off. And it would have been an inside the park home run if it got by him. Yep. So I'm like, so he's thinking. And that's the point. The number one most important thing hitting is thinking. You said 90% of the game's mental, the other half's physical. So why don't we teach the kids how to think properly first?
It's funny. I asked a Harvard guy the other day. I said, this is Harvard University, like the university. I said, I was like, hey, how much time a week you spend? He's a pitcher. I was like, how much time a week you spend in the weight room? He's like, probably like 10 hours, 12 hours. I'm like, all right, cool. How much time you spend throwing bullpens or like working on throwing? He's like, probably another 12, 15, 20 hours. So how much time a week you spend on like working through counts, thinking about how you're going to pitch a guy, like, running through sequences? He's like, what do you mean? Like, no hours, 0, like in the off season. So like, we're not using our brains enough. We're not thinking enough about how to train to be better at what we're trying to actually accomplish. Yeah. People need to train their brains more is the point. Like the reason why Bobby and I are so passionate about what we're trying to build right now is because we were part of the swing revolution, right? Like I would say I was probably like one of the first public guinea pigs of the swing revolution, but I learned how to hit for 27 years before that. Like right now guys think that they can just build a swing and that they're going to be good at hitting. And I'm like, dude, it's not binary. It's not like you build a swing and you're good at hitting. Like the swing is just allowing you to have a little bit more room for error than you would have if you had a garbage swing. But like, you got to learn how to hit. You have to learn how to hit, build a database of information, understand what happens on this pitch, what happens on that pitch, when this guy's throwing, what do I do when I'm feeling good? What do I do when I'm feeling bad? And to your point, the way you hit 330 and 340 and 350 is you figure out how to shorten those windows of when you stink. Like, right. Because you just got to figure out how to be good when you're bad. How good can you be when you're bad, right? Like, how do
that's
you
like golf.
How do you take 2 for 30 and turn it into 4 for 25 or like whatever? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, well, the year I hit 320, I didn't have back-to-back. I had back-to-back offers 3 times the whole year. 3 times.
That's incredible right there.
And like
at that level,
I felt great about my approach. I felt great about my mechanics. And like, it was the first time I felt like I was at home in the big leagues in Toronto. Like, they allowed me to be myself. Hitting coaches didn't jump down my throat. It was awesome. So like, I was able to just go be myself. And like, you know, the battle of attrition, like, how do I just figure out how to have a competitive AB right here, put a ball in play, take my walk when I can get it. And then I looked up at the end of the year and I hit 321. And I said, oh, that was pretty good.
That's incredible. You know, I've got, you know, they asked me a question on the score the other day about how the Cubs have an army of hitting instructors and, you know, this and that. There's, you know, they have their ways of doing things. He says, did you, you know, has there ever been any like conflicts, you know, that were created by Kris's relationship with you? I said, listen, I said, Kris is the guy swinging the bat. Okay. I think if you got to remember that he's the one. Okay. He's his own hitting instructor. He gathers the information and he uses everybody as a soundboard. I says, there's no egos or anything like that. Anthony Iapoce, Termel Sledge came out to my cage to see what we were working on in the off season. And I took that as the ultimate sign of respect for them to show up at the cage and want to know what dad was teaching his kid. And the thing that I told them, I said, listen, I'm not here to step on your toes, man. Right. You know, I'm not. That is the least. Okay. I said, we have the same goal in mind here. We're on, you know, in a sense, we're on the same team, except you're getting paid and I'm not, you know.
Send him an invoice.
Yeah, I know. But he said, and that's fine, you know, with me. I said, I do this for free, you know, for my son. I mean, I'll send him an invoice later. But so I said, look, you know, it's not about who knows what and who knows more. Look, it's all about how you communicate the message and how you articulate what you value. And if you can articulate what you value, these guys can do wonders with it. Okay. And I looked at him, I said, and listen to me. I'm not going to take any credit for this. Okay. Because I'm not going to take any blame either. So if that's what governs me as a hitting guy. I said, you need to be inspired as a hitter that you have a belief level in what you're learning is going to work. And then it's up to you to go out and execute. And if you do, it's all you. Congratulations, man. Kris Caldello hit 320 in the big leagues. He did that. That's great. Bobby helped him along the way. But, you know, Kris wants to give all the credit to me. And if you want to give credit to Bobby for helping, you're the only one that can do that. And that's the way I look at things. And that keeps you humble, you know.
The funny
I'm
thing
past all that ego shit.
You know, you and I think very similar because me, the player, I would be the first one to give credit to Bobby and to Rich Gedman, who are my like 2 hitting guys, and I'll take all the blame.
I know Rich.
And Rich gets the right. Like he was my hitting guy. Bobby was my swing guy. That's the way I describe it, right? And like I'll be the first one to take blame for myself and give them credit because they were able to instill stuff in me that I wouldn't have learned without them. And I think to your point, like the same way, if one of my college guys starts to struggle, like I feel inherently responsible, but I'm never going to take credit for their success because they're the ones that they have to do it. And I just think it doesn't surprise me that that's the kind of person you are because I know your son a little bit and see it in him. So,
well, yeah, you know, you try to get better as a person. I mean, I'm 62 years old now, man. You know, I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons, believe me. You know, as a player, I had all the talent in the world, but I didn't have a mentor. You know, I didn't have any mentor. I mean, I got with Ted Williams finally, and then I was like, my eyes were open big time. And I hit 4 something in spring training, and I got cut. You know, I'm like, I thought you earned a spot. I was trying to get on, you know, trying to earn a spot on the AA team at that time. And I don't, you know, this is just a lot of things back in the 80s. There was a lot of drama, but we got out of it. And I just said, look, my motivation when I had kids was I wanted to figure out why I wasn't the best player on the field because I had the most talent. So, you know, that was my motivation. And then I figured it out. And then I just passed it on to both my kids. My older boy was a pretty good ball player too. He's in the medical field now. So
I had to face him, you know. I faced him in the Atlantic League a couple years ago. I think he struck me out.
Oh, who?
Your Kris's brother, right? Kris's brother.
Oh, no. No, Nick didn't play. He didn't play pro ball or independent ball.
It was somebody's brother then. It was a Bryant, I think.
Yeah.
I guess
somebody's son.
I was wrong. Bobby, look, I said it.
There we go. That's
Bobby
a
always
first.
said that. Never said no.
I was
That's a first.
wrong. See, I was wrong. I can't say I was wrong. Yeah, the only time I was wrong is when I thought I was wrong. That's your answer, Chris.
Oh, you know who it was? It was Harper's brother. Harper's got a brother.
Oh yeah, Brian Harper. Yeah,
Yeah,
big,
that's
big
why I was
lefty.
an idiot. My bad.
Yep. Well, there you go. I mean, that's understandable.
It's the Vegas connection, right?
Yep. Nick, my older boy actually got a game-winning hit off Brian Harper in high school. We had three that we broke their 25-game winning streak, and Nick hit a double to the gap to drive in. Chris scored from first on that.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah. This is how I know I'm getting old, by the way, that I forget stuff and I mess it up. Yeah. This is a bad sign. It's a bad sign that I'm messing up.
Prevagen. Take Prevagen.
Golly. Bobby just left the conversation. I think let us do the rest of the show.
Well, you got any more topics? I got another podcast to do in a couple minutes here.
I think.
Yeah, my computer's about to die for no reason. Scrambling.
Well, I mean, I think we can call it a wrap. We got an hour and 10 minutes worth of stuff.
Yeah, that was fun, man. I will do this.
You're
again.
awesome. He wasn't lying when he said you're great. No, I mean,
thanks, man.
I have one more question. If I lose you, then I lose you. My computer is just gonna die. I got 10% still. Question: If you had to go back to when Kris was 10 years old, so now that you've kind of been on both sides of the swing, I think CC, Chris Colabello, and KB, Kris Bryant, approached the swing change from different angles because Kris Bryant was more under the ball. Kris used to be more on top. If you had to go back to when KB was 10, how would you change the way that you've taught? Or would you change the way that you've taught?
No, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
I just got better at it and more articulate at it and learned more about it. So no, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, Kris was an open stance guy, feet close together like Evan Longoria. When he got into college, he spread out really wide and crouched down a little bit because he was 6'6", and he he was able to get to the low and away slider a little bit better, and that's that made him a great college hitter.
That's so, and he built his swing, and I would say I would have much rather been like grown up like KB than CC, because like I was very limited to like pull side, cut across everything. Like I couldn't drive the ball the other way unless it was an accident, where guys like our size, right? Like him and I are similar body types. Like that's what allowed him to do a ton of damage. Like he was, I mean, he
leverage
on homers, right? So like that made enough noise for him to be KB first rounder, where Chris Colabello hit, I hit 370 or whatever it was at a Division II college, but I didn't get recruited by a Division I school. But because I was limited, I couldn't do the things that made guys like us stand out, where like he's hitting balls 450 feet when he's 16, 17 years old, I bet. And mine were accidental pull side down line. So I went, like, if I could go back in time, I would have learned like KB instead of like, I learned this stuff at 26 instead of, and so I
hit it hard, hit it in the air,
like I wouldn't do anything different.
That's the underlying philosophy right there.
Yeah, you did. I would say you painted the perfect picture for him. And then, like, obviously he took it from there and learned how to just be accountable.
Dude, I got so much blowback through Little League and club ball and high school. I get so much. It's still to this day I'm getting blowback from people in Vegas about the swing. They have no freaking clue.
As Dustin Pedroia so eloquently said in the roast of David Ortiz, I believe it was, he said, and somebody told Dustin Pedroia that he was really short. He goes, I'm not that short when I stand on top of my wallet, though. Kris Bryant's already tall, but his head will go through the roof when he's standing on his wallet. How's that?
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
This is awesome. I'm honored to have talked to you, probably more so than talking to your kid, especially because Patrick posted a thing of us. Like, I kind of tried to one-up him when he did that kick the ball off the tee thing and knock it up in there and hit it. I was like, this doesn't look that hard. So him and I should just have back and forth challenges of like tee hitting tricks that we can do. That'd be fun.
That would be cool. He resists anything I ask him to do, but if I ask him to do a podcast with you guys, the three of us on there, he could roast me all he wants and make fun of me, but you guys could have a blast.
Yeah, that's great. No, we'll set it up. I mean, just let us know. I know he's a little bit busy. He's probably got some stuff going on. Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, hey, so what did you do with your summers for the last like 20 years? I was like, really? Like, is that a question? Like what are you going to do this summer? I was like, I don't know. Like I've played 180 games a year for like the last.
Yeah, right. So play golf.
Exactly. Well, I'm trying to become a scratch golfer now. So.
Yeah, I'm an 8. I played with 6 from time to time, and I get to figure out the putt, and that's all. I can drive it and get it on the green. I get the short game, but the up and down, I can't turn 3 into 2 consistently. So
aim point, get aim point.
We'll be out there soon. Don't let him talk to you about short game. All right, he's not the short game guy. I'm the short game guy here.
Aim point for putting.
We'll be out there soon to play some golf. How's that?
That would be a kick, man. I'd enjoy it. So, all right, guys, I got to move
Mike,
on.
thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Mike. Appreciate it. Tell Kris I wish him the best, and send our.
I will.
Keep going, man.
I will, man. We'll do it again.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, brother.
Bye-bye.
Later.